Welcome to this episode of Q&A with Liturgy Man. I'm Taylor Burton-Edwards, Liturgy Man with Discipleship Ministries of United Methodist Church. I am your apportionment dollars at work to help you strengthen worship and the understanding of worship where you are. Today's question comes to us through Facebook from Scott Parrish from the North Georgia Annual Conference, who wonders what advice I might give for how United Methodists should approach services of healing and what people should expect from a service of healing that we might offer in our churches or in the wider community, since the healing ministry of Jesus was certainly not limited to working inside of synagogues, but predominantly occurred in the open, in public places, in the wider community. I want to offer two kinds of reflections on that question. One is to point you to the really fine introduction to the services of healing that are in the book of worship, beginning on 6:13. I'll read a couple of excerpts from that. But then I want to talk about the biblical terms, the New Testament Greek that's used and translated to healing, because I think that'll provide some more understanding and insight to what's going on with healing in the New Testament and the ministry of Jesus, and so also as we offer it as United Methodists. First, from the book of worship, beginning on page 613, we hear this guidance. All healing is of God. The church's healing ministry in no way detracts from the gifts God gives through medicine and psychotherapy. It is no substitute for either medicine or the proper care of one's health. Rather, it adds to our total resources for wholeness. It goes on to say healing is not magic, but underlying it is the great mystery of God's love. God does not promise that we shall be spared suffering, but does promise to be with us in our suffering. Trusting God's promise, we are enabled to recognize God's sustaining presence in pain, sickness, injury, and estrangement. Likewise, God does not promise that we will be cured of all illnesses, and we must all face the inevitability of death. A service of healing is not necessarily a service of curing, but it provides an atmosphere in which healing can happen. Some advice from our book of worship for what we might expect from a service of healing. Now, a bit of reflection on the verbs that are used and the nouns that are used to describe healing in the New Testament, particularly in the ministry of Jesus. There are three verb families that are used. The most widely used, by far, is the verb therapevo, or therapevin is the infinitive. We can hear our own word therapy in that word. That word does not mean cure. That's really important to hear. The primary verb used to describe the healing ministry of Jesus does not refer to curing. It refers to caring. The verb speaks about serving another, attending to the needs of another. It speaks of careful listening. It speaks of touch. We think about the work of physical therapy in our own day and how touch is involved in bringing about therapy that takes a while, very often, for someone to feel a lot of benefits from, but it does lead to a greater sense of wholeness, a greater sense of health over time. That's the primary verb that describes what Jesus is doing in his ministries of healing. A second verb that's also used from time to time, but not as frequently, is in the larger family of iaome or iatrevo, both of which are related to the work of physicians. Sometimes that can be translated or understood to be to cure, and so there were some people who indeed were instantly cured of some things. More frequently, that verb also simply points to the kind of work a physician does with people. The physician listens. The physician may offer some kind of treatment, and that treatment, if attended to over time, might lead to healing or restoration. So again, even though we have this sense of cure that is part of this, it's like the cure a physician offers that may take some time to go into effect. It's not necessarily instantaneous. Third verb that actually appears as a verb the most frequently in the New Testament, but not translated as healing because it actually has another primary meaning, is sozo, or sozin in the infinitive, and that's the verb that lies underneath our understanding of salvation. It means to deliver, to rescue. This often does mean that someone has been cured, or they have been delivered from the power of demons, or they've been delivered from a situation in which their problem has become overwhelming, and so they're now actually able to function in a much more holistic way and to be more whole than they were prior to the saving encounter. So as we think about all of this guidance together, we approach the ministry of healing primarily as a ministry of attending carefully, with great love, to the needs of those who are before us. Sometimes that comes with healing touch, like anointing with oil. Sometimes that comes simply by the act of careful listening. But whatever means we are able to be engaged in healing ministries in liturgy or in healing conversations, we are invited to be part of that healing ministry of Jesus and empowered as churches and as Christians to be part of that healing ministry of Jesus wherever we go. Hope this has been helpful. Remember, you can always contact me, worship at liturgyfolks.com, through the UMC Worship Facebook group, or drop a line on this page, and perhaps your question or comment will become the basis for a future episode of Q&A with Liturgy Man. May the peace of Christ be always with you.